Hi, and I am back for part two of my library book haul. I have part one, but it was coming on 20 minutes, and I had a lot of books, and I just had a lot to say, so I decided to split it up into two parts. So I'm just going to continue with my book haul. I had mentioned I got probably 30 some books. I didn't count, but I got you could fill up a paper bag for $3, and for each additional bag, it was $1. So I paid $5 for all these books. So I'm just going to continue from where I left off. And these books are in no particular order. But the first book I'm showing you now in part two is Life's Little Instruction Book. And this is just kind of just suggestions and observations and reminders on how to live a happy, rewarding life. And I really like this kind of thing. I'm very, I'd say, suggestible as far as encouraging things and little snippets of motivation. And I like reading these kind of things when I'm down or when I'm just looking for things to kind of be thankful for, or just looking for advice on how to live my life. And so one thing in here, excuse my dog, he's seeing people outside. One thing, become the most positive and enthusiastic person you know. That would be a long shot for me, but it's a good advice. Never cut what can be untied. Sorry, shh, dog, be quiet. Never cut what can be untied. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but let's see. See problems as opportunities for growth and self-mastery. That's a good one. And don't take good health for granted. Also very good. So a lot of really insightful little tidbits on how to live just a better, more positive life. So the next book I have is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. It doesn't really need an introduction. It's quite a popular book. This is kind of a library edition. It's got like plastic over it, like plastic tape or something. But there's a Hulu series. I have not seen it. I had started reading this book in college years ago, but I never finished it for some reason. But I do remember it being good, and I would probably like to get back to it. And next book I have is The Pearl Lagoon. And this one I picked for it's kind of nostalgia. It's a very old book. Scholastic Book Services, New York. It's probably from the 1960s. And I was talking about in part one how I really like vintagey paperbacks. And so I picked this one up. It says, in its caverns, two young divers find rare prizes. So that's all I know about this, but I like the look of it. So who knows if I'll read it. But I liked it, so I picked it up. Next book I have is kind of a classic, Goodbye, Mr. Chips by James Hilton. And it's a story about a beloved teacher, and he's an English schoolmaster, actually. And he's just very popular. And I don't know if he's retiring, something to that effect, but it's kind of a tribute to him. Have not read it, would like to read it if I don't give it to my father who likes classics. But it's not a very long book, and this one actually has pictures in it, which is always a great bonus for me because I love pictures. And so I've heard good things. Goodbye, Mr. Chips, and I wanted to read it, so next book I have is Touching the Void, The True Story of One Man's Miraculous Survival by Joe Simpson. Someone decided to put a little smiley face sticker, which I don't like. I tried to take it off, but of course, with the stickers, you either have good luck or really bad luck, and it's just sticking to the cover, so I'm not going to try. This is about a man who was climbing a peak in the Andes, and he plunged off of a vertical cliff and broke his leg. Well, he ended up surviving, and he was with his friend. I don't know whether or not the friend survived, but this is one of those great survivor stories, and it's kind of in the vein of Alive, which I adored. So I thought I would like this book. It was on my radar. It's been on my radar for years. So I finally picked it up, and like I said, it's a good survivor story, inspirational. So I would like to read this soon. Next book I have is Ordinary People by Judith Guest, and this is inspired by, inspires me from the movie I've seen, which I loved, which was an Academy Award winner, I think, maybe in the 80s, I'm not sure when it came out. It has Mary Tyler Moore in it and Timothy Hutton, and it's about a family, I believe... there were two sons, and then now it's saying there's only one. I think one of the sons died, and it's about the family dynamic, and I think the mother, the other son basically feels that the mother has always favored the son who's no longer there, and it's just a lot of family drama, and I guess it's about dealing with tragedy and everything, so... the movie won Best Picture in 1980, and it was directed by Robert Redford, which I did not know. So this is not a very long book. It's about 200 pages, 250 pages. So I thought maybe the book is really good because I loved the movie. So Ordinary People. Another little inspirational book, A New Adventure Every Day, 541 Simple Ways to Live with Pizzazz by David Silberkleit. And this just got a lot of random things that just kind of suggests things to do. Make something with your partner, restore an old car together that both of you would like to drive, build a garden, make art with your partner. Okay, a lot of partner things. Okay, there's a chapter specifically for relationships. There's a chapter for home, buy adventurous furniture, rearrange your furniture, money, hold a tag sale, pay everyone back from whom you ever borrowed money, which is actually a very, very good idea. Nature, watch clouds materialize out of thin air. So a lot of just kind of positive things, and I liked it. The self-help section in the library sale was fantastic. They had so many books there. I spent probably the first 40 minutes or so in the self-help section before I even got to any of the other books. So this was one of those finds, and so I picked it up. Another book. I'm going to show you these all together because they're kind of in the same, sort of in the same vein. 3 more of those little vintage paperback copies. One of these is Black Beauty, which I love. I love that cover. It's a Scholastic book, Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. And believe it or not, I am a horse freak, but I have never read Black Beauty. And I need to. I've read The Black Stallion, some of those books, but never Black Beauty. This book is called Ellery Queen, Dead Man's Tale, and Ellery Queen, I think, is a series of science fiction. You can still buy Ellery Queen science fiction magazines, and I think they just tell stories. Just this cover is so cool. So it's going to be like a little mystery, and just to give you an idea, this was published in 1961, so a lot of these, are going to be from the early 60s. Footsteps in the Night, so it's probably like a scary thriller. No pictures in it, but I just think these are so cool. And so whenever I found one that was in decent shape, I grabbed it because why not? Next book I have is Plainsong by Kent Harroff, and I've talked a bit about Kent Harroff and heard a bit about Kent Harroff on BookTube. This is a National Book Award finalist book. I have read Our Souls at Night by Kent Harroff. I love his writing style. It's very kind of simple and just understated, and I'm not sure if Plainsong is like that, but I think he tends to go through the same characters, or at least the same setting in his book in Colorado. But I've heard good things about Plainsong, and I think there's a couple more books in this series. So, and this is a nice hard copy, so I picked it up. And if you've read this book or any of these books on my haul, please feel free to comment. Tell me which ones you loved. Tell me which ones I should get to, even which ones you might have hated. I'm very, very open to comments. I love comments. I love talking to everybody. And it's been too long, and I miss talking with you guys. So, Plainsong, and nice hardback copy. And it doesn't have the library stickers on it, which I like. Next book I have is Philomena by Martin Sixsmith. I got this because I was inspired by the movie, which I adore. The Philomena stars Judi Dench and I forget the guy's name. Steve Coogan. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. It's about a woman who she's obviously up in age, probably in her 70s, but when she was young, she lived in a home for girls, and she was pregnant, and that was very frowned upon, and she lived in this home that was run a lot by nuns. When she had a baby, her baby was taken from her and adopted, and this is her years and years later. She wants to find out what happened to her son and, reunite with him. And he's a journalist who takes on her story because it's a human interest story, and they kind of develop a good friendship. And it's a very warm-hearted movie. It's very sad. It has really good sense of humor. And I thought, well, maybe this book would be a good book to read. I mean, having already seen the movie, but I'd love to see what the book is like. So that's one of my all-time favorite movies, Philomena. I have a few more books to go. Seed Folks by Paul Flashman. This is a Newbery Medal winning author. I don't know a lot about this book. It was in the children's section. I think it's basically about a neighborhood. It says a neighborhood of strangers where no one seems to care. There's a vacant lot that's rat infested and filled with garbage. Looked like no place for a garden. Well, I think what's going to happen is these people are going to come together and start planting things and develop a garden, and it's probably going to bring everyone together and show these people how they can sustain themselves and make food and build a community. So I thought this would be a good, positive book to read, and I had never heard of it before, but it was in nice condition and it sounds inspiring, so I picked it up. It's called Seed Folks. Next book I have is 5 Days to an Organized Life by Lucy Hedrick. This book is internet and cell phone, things like that. So an organized life back in 1990 might be quite different than an organized life today. As far as today, we're going to put all of our names and addresses in our cell phones probably, whereas this probably gives you tells you to put things in notebooks or address books and things like that. So that's just an example of how the times have changed. But it has kind of it's kind of a workbook style, which I love. I love being prompted to answer questions and fill out things and just kind of working on self-improvement. So I don't know if I'll get to this because I'm actually not a very disorganized person. I mean, it might kind of look like that with stuff in the background, but I'm not a very messy person, but I think we can all gain some insight and some helpful hints about how to organize our lives a little better, whether it's your office or your home or just one room in your house or even your car. So this was kind of a cute book, so I picked it up. Next book I have is The Memory of Water by Karen White. This was actually a book I picked up for my sister because she's read a lot of Karen White, and I have not read anything by her, but I think her stories take place in South Carolina and the Carolinas, so they might be kind of beachy reads, but it might be interesting to pick one up and see how it is. I do like books that are kind of take place on the coast or by water, and I wouldn't call this like fluffy reading, because I wouldn't say that because I don't know, but I think they basically generally have that setting and they're about relationships and things like that. So I just picked this up thinking I would give it to my sister, but I think she's already gotten to this book. So I'll probably keep it for myself for a while and see if I get the desire to pick it up and read it. So I only have a few books left, so I will try to get to these. And I'm going on 15 minutes now, so I'll try to stay under 20 minutes. This is The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, obviously, by Mark Twain. And it's a lovely copy. I don't know. I'm thinking it is unabridged, but usually when I've seen Huckleberry Finn, it's been a thicker book. So I don't know, but the type is sort of small, so it probably is an unabridged copy. I started this book in high school, I think, and for some weird reason I never finished all of it. But I would like to. It's a classic, and so, Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and this is really neat version of it. So obviously, as I said, the soft spot for these vintage paperbacks. Next book I have is Harlan Coben, Home, and I've read a handful of Harlan Coben books. I always listen to them on audio, and I usually enjoy them. He writes domestic thrillers, and he's got a really good sense of pacing and characters, and a really good sense of humor with his main characters. Usually are kind of sarcastic and kind of sassy. So I'm actually not even sure what this one is about. I think it's about two kidnapped boys, and one of them returns later on, and they don't know where the other one is. But anyway, I've read a handful of his books, and my favorite so far has been The Woods, which was really good. It was hard to put down. And so that is Home by Harlan Coben. And my dog's trying to eat Kleenex, so I had to stop him. I'm sorry about that. Next book I picked up is Stronger by Jeff Bauman. And this is a man who survived the Boston bombing several years ago. He was near the finish line and the bomb went off. He ended up losing both of his legs. And when he was in the hospital, I guess, he said that he saw the man or one of the suspects and that he had looked right at him. So I'm guessing his information helped, catch these two guys that ended up bombing, that bombed the Boston Marathon. So it's a biography, and I guess this is called Stronger, so I'm probably going to go through his rehabilitation and how he copes with having, prosthetic legs. And there's a movie about it. I think Jake Gyllenhaal plays him. I have not seen it. But good biography, personal story, survival, those books usually speak to me. So I have 5 books left to show you. One is Skipping Christmas by John Grisham, and I thought this would be fun to read over the holidays. And it's kind of a random book, I think, for John Grisham, but he does kind of venture out there, though, sometimes out of the legal courtroom drama books into these. So this was actually made into a movie called Christmas with the Cranks, which is with Tim Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis. It's a really silly, kind of stupid movie, but I like watching it anyway because it's kind of funny and silly. So that was based on this book. So I thought I would read this. It's a nice, lovely copy, hardback. And so maybe this year, maybe next year, I'll read this. Next book I have is Bibliotherapy, the Girl's Guide to Books for Every Phase of Our Lives. And this goes into just recommendations for books for every some of the categories are coming of age books, which I am very, very far away from teenage years. But I don't know, sometimes you might want to go back to those days. You might read a coming of age anyway, no matter how old you are. Exploring Our Sexuality books. Everything you've always wanted to know about sex but were afraid to ask. Hearing Your Inner Voice books, Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. That's one book I probably enjoy reading. Midlife Crisis books. That's the book I feel more in line with right now, rather than coming of age. And one of those books, When I Am an Old Woman, I Shall Wear Purple. Just some of the books that are recommended in here. Personal is political books, so maybe like kind of on the political side. Bridget Jones's Diary, Bad Hair Babe books. It kind of gets a little silly with the language. The Portrait of a Lady, Illuminata by Marianne Williamson. Anyway, I just thought this would be fun, like to kind of get new recommendations that I might not already have known about. 3 quick books left. I have Bridges of Madison County by Robert James Waller. There were a bunch of copies of these, and I have not seen the movie that has come out, but I have heard actually Jason mention this book, Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse, that he really enjoyed this book. And it's a short book. I feel like you could get through it really fast. Don't know a whole lot about it. I think it's a romance. So why not? Bridges of Madison County. Next book is another John Grisham, Bleachers, and this kind of goes out of the courtroom drama and into something else. This is about a football team, I think, who goes back for they go back for a funeral for one of their coaches. And I guess the coach, one of the students has mixed feelings about this coach, and he's I guess a beloved coach, and for whatever reason this guy does not like him, or it might be more deeper than that. I don't know exactly the story, but he has issue with him, and we'll find out what that is. So Bleachers. I'm not a big fan of football or sports in general, but I thought this story sounded interesting. And the very last book I have was one I was excited to see because I wanted to buy it, but now I don't have to. So that is Enduring Love by Ian McEwan. It's also a recommendation by Jason from Old Blues Chapter and Verse. He talked about this book, and I thought it sounded absolutely intriguing. And it's about a couple goes on a hot air balloon ride, and there's an accident. And one man gets killed, but the guy who rescues this man, the man is part of the couple, I guess forms a bond with the man, but it turns into some sort of obsession. So it's kind of it's kind of a thriller, maybe, but the way he described it, it sounded really, really intriguing. So I'm glad I have a copy of this now, and I'm sure I'll read it and then I will review it. And then, Jason, I can let you know what I think of this book, because you've read it already. Anyway, that is the last book of my haul, and I'm at 23 minutes. Sorry if this is over long, but I like to talk. So, especially about new books. I'm glad I got to filming this because I had been putting it off, and I know I've been putting off videos. I'd like to change that a bit and put out more content. Sometimes I struggle with ideas of content. Sometimes I'm just not in the best mood. But I enjoy talking about books, and I'm still watching plenty of BookTube and getting inspiration from you guys and enjoying that. So thank you for watching this. If you have any comments about any of the books I've shared today, please feel free to comment below, and I will hope to see you soon for a next video. I hope you enjoyed Thanksgiving and Black Friday, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care. Bye.